Welcome to a brief introduction to a new playlist. Now, those of you who are even vaguely familiar with this channel will know that one of the main elements of its contents for a number of years now really have been things like Eagle Moss Star Trek ships unboxings. And I make no apologies for that because I like my spaceships. Yes. And I very much grew up on Star Trek as a source of science fiction. Because obviously for the longest time, Star Trek was the only space-based science fiction show on TV. Doctor Who was around, of course, during all of the sort of Star Trek type years, but Doctor Who wasn't necessarily a space science fiction show, if that makes sense. So in sort of coming back to collecting again and, collecting figures and models and so on, Eagle Moss's range of Star Trek starships was a really sort of natural fit for me. And they covered pretty much everything going across, all the sort of original series that I considered to be sort of my era of Star Trek, which is, in a sense, the original series, yes, but mainly the Next Generation kind of shows. So Next Gen, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and Enterprise as well, I think, because Enterprise was still that sort of format of show. So with the Eagle Moss ships, I stopped when Discovery started, basically, because I didn't think they were really sort of my era of ships at all. But let me just show you this. And this is kind of what set me down this path for this series of videos. I'm still smiling just looking at it. It's funny. The idea of sort of your inner child? This is the Playmates Enterprise D. This was circa 1992, I think, this first release of it. Didn't even come with a stand. So there's no hole on the bottom of it for a stand. It just is. And I'm absolutely fine with that, because this is a toy. This isn't a model, it's a toy. But it's a toy that's been done with a huge amount of care and attention to detail, because it could easily double as a model if you wanted it to. But of course it does do stuff. Now, the funny thing about this, many moons ago, I did videos on the Playmates Ronin Warbird and the Klingon Vorcha attack cruiser. And for some bizarre reason, at that point in time, it didn't occur to me that they would have also done the Enterprise. I have no idea why I didn't go through that thought process at the time. Maybe because I was still collecting Eagle Moss stuff at the time. Anyway, for whatever reason, I just didn't go there. And just recently, I picked up an old poster of the Enterprise D that I used to have when I was, in my teenage years. It used to be in my bedroom. And I literally just tripped across this poster, which is a cutaway of the Enterprise D. And you may have seen it on some of my other videos already. But I think that must have just sort of triggered something with me. And so I saw this on an auction and I just thought, that looks like it's in reasonable condition. It's not too badly yellowed, which a lot of them are. So I picked it up. And of course that sent me down the rabbit hole again. Because I thought, so this is the same one that came out at the time that my Vorcha and my Warbird came out. Okay, so what else did Playmates do? And also, what else did Diamond Select do? Because Gareth from Cosmic Toys had a Diamond Select Bird of Prey in his store when I first went in his store. And I then returned to his store to buy said Klingon Bird of Prey because it was awesome and it was enormous. And it did electronics like this. So what I'm going to look at in this particular series of videos is the Playmates and the Diamond Select ranges, mainly of the ships, because I know I just fired a replica phaser at you from Playmates, but that's not going to be a focus for me because I'm not going to get tricorders and stuff. You know, I've got finite funds and I'm more a starships kind of guy. So what I'm quite interested to see is the differences and the different approaches that those companies took. And what's really strange for me is that, you know, I was talking about that sort of inner child concept. When I got this in the post and I just went, you know, I was just I just smiled. I just got a proper excited kiddie feeling, thinking, oh my God, I've got a proper toy of the Enterprise D that I can just sling around the place and it makes cool sound effects and it lights up. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. But the thing is, and this is the really interesting thing to my mind, is that the vast majority of these that you can get on eBay now are not British. They weren't sold in the UK, is my understanding, worth a damn. Now, I probably wouldn't have thought to be picking up toys in the sort of maybe the early 90s when Playmates were starting to release these, admittedly. But had I wanted to, they wouldn't have been here for me to buy because they were only being sold in the States. Now, I rather suspect that, you know, Star Trek stuff has always been very popular in this country, but we just never got the merchandise particularly. I don't know why that was. Because the irony is that I've got a dinky Enterprise sat in the cabinet to my left here, which was British produced. And I bet that sold quite well in the States. But that would have been, you know, like a couple of decades before we got these Playmates ones. And what's also interesting is that Playmates have now re-released this, but it doesn't have as many buttons. But apparently it is the same mold. I think Nick from Nema Studios said it was the same mold, but the buttons are slightly different. And the buttons are a good indicator, incidentally. If you're looking for differences between this one and the Diamond Select one on photos, the 4 buttons are a dead giveaway, as long as they've taken it from the right angle. Because, of course, at the end of the day, it is the Enterprise D. And they do tend to make it look very much like the Enterprise D, funnily enough. But this is what started me on this train of thought, as in, what else did Playmates do? How good were those toys? And, you know, why did we not get them over here? Because it's got to have been, I mean, it was Next Generation, I remember being on Sky, but I used to have to pick it up on videotapes because my parents didn't do Sky. So I used to religiously go down to W.H. Smith in North Wales, and they used to smile benignly at me because they knew every time I went up to the video floor, they knew exactly what I was going to ask them for. Was the next Generation tape in, please? Could I have it, please? Thank you. So it's just sort of, it really does take me back. It does take me back. But, you know, if you've never seen the Diamond Select ships, you're going to be quite surprised. And I've got a few of I think I've got a couple of examples of the Playmates ones that are relatively rare, maybe even for the US market, which I was just happy enough to be able to land on at this point in time. So over the course of the next, you know, few weeks / months, I'm going to try and build up a good playlist in my normal sort of show and tell fashion, in my sort of close-up, you know, setup, and I'm going to try and show you the ones that I've picked up. And if I get some more money generated from the channel in between times, then I will obviously try and add to the collection and pick up some more pieces as I go along. Some of them I do have boxes for as well, so I will be trying to show you the box art wherever I've got it. But if not, I'm sure you'll find it online. I found some really good resources online as well to actually sort of give you a listing And one of the things I'm going to show you is a rather interesting book that I've picked up, which is about the Playmates range. I haven't seen an equivalent for the Diamond Select range of toys as yet, I must admit. I perhaps need to do a little bit more research on that front, see if I can actually get a definitive listing. But what I can tell you is that there are certain ships that they've overlooked. Well, I say overlooked. I think that Playmates only had at the time in the 90s a somewhat limited license in terms of what they could produce. And Diamond Select had a slightly different license, which I think results in them covering some ships that are the same, but also some ships that the other lines don't. So in some cases you'll have Diamond Select and Playmates. In other cases you'll just have Playmates, you'll just have Diamond Select. So obviously they made different choices, or could only make different choices depending on what their license was. But yeah, I just wanted to sort of tee this up basically, because I've been mulling it over in my head for quite a while as to exactly how I do it, and quietly sort of acquiring stuff to show you, obviously. But it's really, really sort of interesting stuff, and it's interesting how the different companies have gone about it. I'm actually waiting on another one of these to see whether or not this one is as fully functioning as it ought to be, because I'm not quite sure. This is part of the difficulty, of course. If you don't have a definitive boxed version that is known to be working, and it's kind of difficult to know whether or not you've got a good example. But as I say, if you want one of these, Playmates are releasing them now. If I can find a way to do it, I'll drop a link into the description so you can go and have a look. So if you're interested in sort of picking one up in time for Christmas this year, it's 2024 at the time of recording, then have a look at that link and see if you can pick yourself one up. It might well be possible. So yeah, so it's just something to warm you up to this, basically, the concept. And I'm not going to limit myself to just Playmates and Diamond Select. I've got some other examples of enterprises and so on, which I'm going to show you as I go through. And of course, there are already videos on this channel which look at various Star Trek toys, like the Eagle Moss ones I've already done unboxings for over time. So do go and have a look at that playlist as well. I don't think I will merge the playlists. I am going to do this playlist distinct from my Eagle Moss ones. But as I say, all of the sort of Eagle Moss ones are completely valid from a Trek Toys point of view. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there as introductions go. So hopefully that will be of interest to at least some proportion of the people who follow this channel. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like me to try and have a look at, or anything you remember fondly in terms of the Playmates or the Diamond Select stuff. And we'll see how we crack on with it all. Cheers for now. Live long and prosper.